Hi, it's Mark Bossert from Top Local Lead Generation. We're here with Mr. Chuck Prenevost. He's Western Canada's franchise expert. He works for a company called FranNet. How you doing today, Chuck?
Doing great, Mark. Thank you. How are you?
Good. So we're gonna kind of dig into one of the real deep topics, I think, that probably perplex a lot of people. How do I do effective research on a franchise opportunity?
It is a, deeper topic for sure, Mark. I think the way perhaps what I'll do is just describe a little bit of how to get to that point of conducting the research, and I'll give a short list of the do's and don'ts. But really, we talked a lot in the past about taking stock of yourself. Looking at who you are, what your money investment is, having enough money set aside, all of those things. And now let's get to that point, bring people a little bit forward to the point where they've taken that stock and they're ready to actually start the research process. And we have 70 different franchise companies we represent, and trying to say here's 70, let's go through all 70. Well, it's an absolute waste of time, frankly speaking. What we want to do by taking all that stock of who you are, your money, your passions at the front end, is we get to narrow down to only those businesses that are the strongest match for that particular client. And then that's where we will introduce those businesses, and that's really where their work starts. That's where the research begins for that person. And if I were to break it into those do's and don'ts categories, the sort of the areas where the do's that you do want to start your research process, I like to say it's having a proper mindset, right? A mindset that I am going to engage in conversations with people to find out about that particular business model. And we call that speaking with the franchisors, and they will happily engage with you. Um, but it's going to take two, three, maybe even four phone calls for anybody to really get a solid understanding of that particular business model, right? How else are you going to find out about, let's say, the cultural fit of that organization, or how they drive marketing? One of the big speed bumps, as I call them, the hiccups in research sometimes, is a franchisor that's established, let's say in Toronto, that's moving into the Winnipeg, Calgary, Edmonton market. How do they get new business in those categories? And that's a big concern for a lot of people. But if you don't talk to them, how else are you going to understand how they break into new markets like that? Because frankly speaking, they've done it thousands of times before in many different markets. They do have a process to do that, and you need to understand what that process is. So really, if I it's having the mindset to approach those franchisors and have those solid conversations. The don't part, or the flip side to that, is using only the internet for your research. Okay, as we all know, and I joke about this often in some of my presentations, everything on the internet's true, right? Well, the reality is, it's some of it is and some of it isn't. And when somebody does a quick search about a particular franchise, typically what pops up are reviews from people that are unhappy for whatever reason. And frankly, it's a very small sampling of the people out there that have engaged with this particular franchisor. So use the internet as part of your research, but please do not use it as your only source. Because if you don't engage in those conversations with those franchisors, you can't learn about it. And frankly speaking, you're probably not ready to buy a business yet, right? That's kind of the don't part of the do's and don'ts of conducting proper research. It's it's approach that, and again, it gets back to the mindset where I'm going to set myself, let's say, a timeline goal for the next 2 or 3 months. I'm going to research this business before I make a proper informed decision. If I'm going to do it in 3 or 4 Google searches and figure out that this is or is not the right business for me, then frankly, you're never going to buy that business, or any business, if that's your approach to research. Use the internet, but don't use it as your sole source of research.
Awesome. So use all your, basically what you're saying is use all the tools available, all the sources of information, including the guys who actually run the business. Yes, they're going to try and sell you something, but they're also going to, it's in their best interest. They have legal requirements to tell you the truth. And so they're going to tell you the real truth, and you'll be able to get far deeper insight rather than just the outside view from a customer's feedback or even just disgruntled other franchisees. And those could be valid inputs to say, maybe don't want to go with this opportunity. Maybe the risk is too high. But I think all you're saying, as far if I'm interpreting right, is take the full picture, including conversations with the actual company, in order to make your decision. You can't really make a good decision without those conversations.
100% accurate with your interpretation, Mark. The way I describe it as well is, as you're engaging with the franchisors and you're learning about their business, they're checking you out as much as you're checking them out, right? And that's part of that cultural fit. And if they like what they hear throughout the research, ultimately they offer you the opportunity to join their franchise. They don't sell you a franchise, they offer it only to those strong potential business operators. Absolutely.
Awesome. So we've been talking with Mr. Chuck Prenevost. He's the guy to call in Western Canada if you're making a career transition or looking at getting a franchise. Give him a call, 1-604-849-0278. Thank you, Chuck.
Thanks very much, Mark.